Are you excited? Yeah, I am once again super excited to be here with a true leader in community, a living legend. Yes, don't act like that. When y'all hear him talk, you'll see what I'm talking about. But we're actually here talking about the MLK 60th anniversary of the March on Washington. And our theme right here is Dream Unfinished. Not a commemoration, but a continuation. So tell me, when you hear that theme, introduce yourself and tell us what that theme means to you.
Well, hello. My name is Reverend Dr. Steve Baker, and that theme is Dr. King talked about a dream, but in reality, the dream was the conclusion of his speech to talk about the conditions that basically America had defaulted on justice for all of its citizens. Voting was a big issue at the time. Economic empowerment, all were a big issue. So this theme of the dream unfinished, we still have issues that are challenging. Voting is still a problem today. Jobs, justice, all of those things which Dr. King talked. Has there been improvement? Yes, there's been improvement. Not a lot of improvement, but improvement. But every time we seem to be moving in the right direction, there are forces that come against that, that just says we don't want you to participate fully in America. So the theme to me says there's still work to be done. We have not reached what is called a racially blind society. So those are some of the things that still, to me, impact. It impacts our nation, and sadly, it impacts the world. It really does, and because America does seem to set the tone for a lot of the rest of the world.
I love that. I love that so much. And you know, we decided collectively, so it's really about Eddie Wright. Let's talk about
Brother Eddie Wright.
Brother Eddie Wright.
Amen.
I feel like we got to make sure during this time, during this kickoff. So he decided he was going to connect with the pastors in the community and really align on this thing, Dream Unfinished. Not a commemoration, but a continuation. That was Eddie. He said we got to unite, present a united front, go forward in a way that allows us to thrive. Now we got 4 days of amazing content that's happening. August 28th is the Monday. That's the official anniversary. But we got things happening the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So the 25th.
25th is the preach-in. Yeah, then the 26th is the young people. Saturday, a lot of events going on. Then Sunday is going to be the rally, and then the march over to Martin Luther King Park from the Northwest Museum. And then there will be a panel discussion that you will be leading with these wonderful people who will be part of the community, and there'll be a Q&A after the panel discussion. So there's a lot going on this, as we said, not commemoration, but continuation for the dream unfinished.
I love it. Let's talk a little bit about those people who have been in the struggle, that have been leading this work for decades. Eddie Wright is one of them. He always says, well, he's 81 now, I think.
I don't know Eddie's age, but yeah, Eddie's been doing. I remember Eddie when we changed the name from Empire Way, that goes all the way out to the South End through the central area for black folks. Eddie was one of the leading persons behind it. Eddie, Gossett, Larry Gossett, who was a county council member for a while, and we covered those demonstrations that Eddie and them would lead, because Empire was named after a racist railroad guy. And so the name was, since it went through the black community, let's change the name of this street to Martin Luther King Boulevard. And it was you had businesses that did not want it. They gave all kind of, I can't say BS, but they gave all kind of excuses. Right. Oh, well, we got to change our letterhead, we got to change all of our printing, we got to change our address. It was crap. It was just crap. But as they saw that people were saying, well, we just won't go to your business, because it was obviously black and it was economics, and so Eddie led that. Eddie was in it, as I said, Larry Gossett, there were others. I know I'm forgetting names, so forgive me for forgetting names, but that happened. So yeah, there have been people who have been doing these demonstrations for years. Larry Gossett helped open the University of Washington to African American students, the Black Student Union. I remember I was at Franklin High School, and we went up there, and Larry said, you young guys, go home. We don't want you to get in trouble, because they threw a desk out of the president of the university, threw a desk out of his window to say, we're serious about this. And he said, that's why he said, so you young folks go home if anything jump off. We don't want you all being in trouble. But then when you look at a lot of our demonstrations, young folks were always there because we didn't have the sense that our parents have with them putting their jobs at risk. So you would go out and be ready to do stuff because you're just like, hey, this needs to be addressed. So yeah, we need to acknowledge those old lions, excuse the old lions, I'm one of them, who have been out here for a long time, trying to make this a better world for their children and for other people's children, even for those who are children of the oppressor.
Do you see that? And you're Reverend Dr. Stephen.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Reverend.
Yes, ma'am.
You're obviously a believer.
Yes, I am.
And like you said, you talked about the shenanigans, the things that we know systemically have created challenges for our people. How do you remain so hopeful, so positive? And what words would you say to someone who feels the burden of the system?
Hey, it's not easy. I'm at the point in my life where I have grandchildren, and when I look upon them, I want them to have a better life than I have, because I have to reflect back at my grandparents, the world they lived in. My grandfather grew up in the heart of the worst state in the world, Mississippi. And I watched what he did to have his children college educated, to be someone who was addressed as Mr. Barry all the time. And a lot of us don't understand that, in our day and time. But to be addressed as Mr. in the South, when they call people always boy or gal and all those things to sort of diminish them and discount them, he was not addressed that way. And that's what I had to remember as I grew into young adulthood from my visits and how he would take care of his business. So I said, we are the dreams of them, of him. And I remember distinctly one time watching the demonstrations in Birmingham, Alabama, where they were putting the dogs on the kids and the fire hoses, and all the elders were in the room, my grandparents, my parents, and we kids were sort of sitting back, keeping our mouths shut. And one of the elders, who I respected greatly, said, look at them, they out there having all that work done to them. Why are they doing that? They don't need to be out there. And I remember real distinct, my grandmother said, they're out there to make a better life for the children. And so, me, it's like things were better. And so I want them to continue to get better. And they don't get better by just hoping they get better. They get better by engaging and demanding, as Frederick Douglass says, power sees nothing without a demand. You got to demand that things are going to change. Things are going to change, and I'm willing and ready to make it uncomfortable for you if things don't change. And that's what we've had to do with America, is keep making things. My grandmother used to say, baby, you are agitating with folks. But that's what a washing machine does. It agitates to get the dirt out. So you just keep on agitating. So, those are some of the things that give me hope, is when I've had those who come before me who say, just stay at it. It's going to get better. Because it has gotten better and they can see it. So we need to make sure we tell young folks it's going to get better. As much as they try to tell you to lose hope, it's like, as you said, I'm a believer. And, I believe in the Jesus before the empire. You need to understand there's two Jesuses. Jesus was hated, and the empire killed him. Martin Luther King was hated, and they killed him. And now they act like he's this great halo figure, but when you go back in 1966 and 68, they took a survey, and the most disgusted person in America in the survey, I think Look magazine did one, Guy did one, was Dr. King. The man who now, as Jesse Jackson said, they have neutered Dr. King. See, that's the same thing they did with Jesus. Jesus didn't hang out with the people in power. He hung out in the hood. He hung out in the neighborhood. And so they had to kill him. And now when they killed him, the empire said, well, now we need to convert him to our tool for our usage. And so we've had some troubles ever since. They've done that with religion. So you have to stay hopeful by using the truth. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the light. They give us a bunch of lies. You got to go through them lies to get to the truth. And we should see that now, because they're trying to say slavery was nothing but a vocational training program. So you got to be very on top of stuff when you do things.
That's my home state. Can y'all pray for the people in Florida?
Yeah, Yeah,
I was
we got
born.
the crack.
I was born in Florida. The Lord got me here because He know I wouldn't even know how to
Respond to that.
You don't know how to respond to
That's some
shenanigans
crazy
like
stuff.
that.
Yeah, that's some crazy stuff. So,
Many things that need to change right here in Washington State.
amen.
It is so awesome to be in a place where these people act. I'm gonna say act, right? They at least act like they say the words. Racism is a public health crisis. They said that for the county, right?
In Martin Luther King County.
In Martin Luther
The
King
only county in the whole country that is named after Dr. Martin. But you have to look at it. This county still, we lead the nation in incarceration on a percentage basis. You know, because basically we make up less than 12% of the population in the whole state, about 8% in this state. Yet when you go into our prisons, over 40%, sometimes 50% of those who are incarcerated are African American. Something is wrong with the system with justice, and so that's why people got to vote. You got to vote because when you vote, look, Obama's election made people decide, those that don't want us to vote, basically just like Reconstruction. When they got at the end of the Civil War and blacks could vote, at least black men could vote, we sent U.S. senators, we sent congressmen to the South. 1 out of every 4 federally elected official between 1865 to 1870 was black. But there were white forces that said, no, this can't happen. So they began to shut down with voter suppression to the point where you had Mississippi, only 1% of the black folks voted. Georgia, 2% of the black folks voted. They said we have to take the vote away from them because they're throwing open the doors of justice, they're throwing open the doors of economic empowerment. We got to shut that down. If you look at history, that's what's happening with us today. They're taking back the vote because you know why? When Obama got put in, they saw over 2 million additional votes by black folks. They saw basically about 1 million votes from Asian folks. They saw over 3.5 million votes from young folks. And they said, we can't have this. We have to go. And so they have been targeting those young people and black folks and Asian folks. They do these nice targets. In Texas, I won't even get to Florida yet. In Texas, you can have a student state issue ID. Well, if you're going to one of the universities, you get state issue ID with a photo. They said you can't use that to vote. But if you have a gun permit that's issued by the state, you can use that for vote. Why do they don't want young folks in college to vote? Because more than likely they ain't going to vote for the craziness that the Republicans is talking about. They also know that for a lot of families, whether they're Hispanic, they're Asian, it's multi-generational. My mother, 93 years old, she lives with me. My wife's parents, they live with us. One of my sons lived with us. Multi-generational house. What Florida says is you got to show us a utility bill with your name on it. Well, everybody in the house don't get a separate utility bill. So why do they ask for a utility bill? Because they figured we can knock off some people who can't come in showing us a utility bill, whether it's for your electrical, for your water, at that house. So they're doing these things. And then they shut down the voting things. Like in Georgia, they had something like 25 communities where people could vote that were primarily African American. What they've done in Georgia is now they've shut down, there's only like 5 areas where you can vote. And then they shut down where you can get a license. Places you have to get state issue license. Texas has done it, Florida has done it, Georgia's done it. They have said we shut down the DMV. If you want to get a DMV, you got to drive in some places in Texas over 200 miles to the nearest open DMV to get yourself a driver's license, which you need to have to vote. Why did they do that? Because when they looked around and saw what Obama did, and all these young people, all these poor people voting, they said, well, we ain't getting no more older white folks. So, and there's a whole lot more young people of color. We got to make sure they can't vote. And they've said, if you look at history, they've said we don't want people that are poor, that are color, to vote. I mean, even the orange guy. The orange guy said there's no way we can ever win an election if we have it fair. He knows that. Because he said our policies, they're not going to buy the stuff we sell. So they have to take away our vote. So to me, you have to have hope to realize if they shut us down before and tried to shut us out, and we were able to put somebody in the White House, they still have fear that we'll do that again. So that's why I have hope. I have to have hope because, yeah, the Jesus of the hood said, don't fear those who can just kill the body, fear those who can kill the spirit. The idea of hope, and that's why I'm always going to have hope.
Mm. I love this so much. Again, I'm grateful for you.
For me.
Yes.
Okay.
I am grateful for you. I
Well,
just
thank
feel,
you.
I feel blessed. I feel honored, honestly, to be sitting here with you, to be engaging with you, you know, to be creating this video archive with young people and senior, what's the right word for old people? I can't say old people.
Elders,
Elders.
the wise,
The
yeah,
wise.
the wise, the sages.
The sage, there you go.
Yeah,
I love
like
that.
those things for me. Yeah.
So, our lives are blessed because of you. The living legends in Black history, people that were in the fight, that are doing the work. I just want to say thank you.
Well, I'm thankful for those that went before me because whatever I do is my little bit to contribute what major work those who've gone before us have done. I mean, my being here in Seattle, you say from Florida, my folks are out of Mississippi. The silent migration, you know, and this is the thing that sometimes I hear from those that say our great state of Mississippi and all this here in Georgia. I'm talking, if it was so great, why was the greatest migration of black folks to get out of those areas? If it was so damn great, it would seem like they would have stayed there, but they had to get out, and they still didn't want folks to get out. I mean, you know, you had police that used to basically go to the train station to see who was getting on the train. They used to go to the bus stations. Black folks, they said, would wear their work clothes on top of their fine clothes, and they were getting ready to leave because they had to leave in a way that was circumvent, because the whites were saying, look, we're losing our workforce. And, you know, you don't see it is estimated that over 6 million, the largest migration in civilization's history, was the silent one of blacks leaving the South because they looked around and they said, this ain't working for me. And you know, the way they did it, slavery by any other name, where they would still say, well, we can't make you a slave, but we can charge you with a crime, find you, lock you up, and take you right back to that same plantation, that same farm, and make you work off that fine. And it's the same thing, but it's just by a different name. Peonage is what they called it for a while. So voting is what has to happen to stop those things. But today we still need voting so that we can have better ability to vote, a better ability for law, for justice, economic expansion, all that.
All of that. Give me a high five. All of that.
All that.
All of that. Wow. This is so amazing. Two final questions for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe three. But real quick, as it relates to what you talked about, we're here focused on not just Dream Unfinished, not just that. That's important. That's the kickoff.
Yes.
Right? This is the kickoff. We agree. This is not the end. This is the beginning. It's a continuation, not a commemoration, right?
Amen.
So we're focused on this Dream Unfinished with the true looking forward mindset of being committed to continue the dream. We're committed to continue the dream. What would you say to those empowered about being committed to continuing the dream?
That we're not going to stop. You know, that part of it with young folks is to inform them that the past is not in the past, that there are implications from what they've done in the past that are still with us today. And so we're going to continue, because if you feel that you're being denied something, that why is it that this is happening to me and to my community, to my people, all those are impacts that we have to be able to address to make a more just world. And as I said, when they tried to say a race neutral or a race colorblind society, those were lies. Those are just flat out lies. And so when you look at young people and the shootings and the violence, and for sometimes when some of them say, Pastor, I'm not going to live to be 25, or I'm not going to live to be 30. Those are because of the manifestations of things in our community that are there intentionally. They're there purposely, so that you will feel like I'm going to turn on those around me who look like me, who have less like me. And though I'm not going to look for those who have more, who are able to benefit, yet I don't benefit. that's some of what America owes a debt. Randall Robinson in the book, The Debt, he talks about all the sacrifices we gave to build this great nation. Why should we continue it? We've opened it up for other people, whether it's immigration laws. I said a lot of people don't realize that part of what Dr. King and them did in that march is they opened up the immigration for other people. Because prior to that, if you look in the 1948, the Klan marched, 75,000 Klan members of Washington, D.C. They marched on Washington. And part of what they wanted, you heard this other guy say build a wall. They said we don't want people who aren't from Europe to be in America. So part of that civil rights bill that was passed in 1964 after the 63 wars, it opened up immigration to the rest of the world and not just Western Europe. So we have neighbors, we have friends, we have people of other ethnicities who don't realize you are here because of the blood of our folks who died to open up. And so we need to walk together and everybody's children, because they're not going to just come for one group and stop. And they always coming after us. And it makes you have to wonder, you know, we were put in chains to get brought here. They had to lie and hold us in chains. They had to have what we know as the police used to be the slave patrol. I said, it was so good, and they loved the slaves. Why was all this brutality in there? Why did you do all? Apparently there was some folks saying, we're not going to stay here. Harriet Tubman gave them the message, like, you know, I'd rather be a slave dead in my grave than be a slave alive for you. We have to keep moving because we are the ones who have made this nation and world a better place. What, hip-hop is celebrating 50 years. And you know, I think I love Tupac with the song, like, is there a ghetto in heaven? He said he's still wondering about how are things going to be in the next world when this world comes to an end. And whether it's in Russia, whether it's in Korea, everybody got the hip hop going on now. And you got to like that because it's the power of music to transform, to give hope. And so that's some of why we march, is because the dream is unfinished. And so we have to continue to agitate, to move forward, because, you know, as you know, I hate to keep using quotes, but when King said an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And we got it. And that's why we have to have that hope, and that's why we still have to march, and that's why young folks is critical for their children and their grandchildren to have a better world, because the ones who came before us gave us a better world. We have the obligation to give those who come after us a better world.
Don't you love him? It was like, yes. Wow, that was just amazing. So as it relates to mindset, the National Black MBA Association, as I mentioned, we're leading a series called the Better Together Empowerment Series. You think about it's better when we do it together.
Amen.
We know that. And we also have a series that's called Living Powerfully, the Living Powerfully Experience. So if you think about those words, it's about mindset. It's about the neuroscience of the brain, cognitive behavioral psychology. It's all the things, performance science. It's really like wellness and relationships, and like what do we do to really, you know, create a space where we're have the best life possible. We can live and step into our true potential. So when you hear the words Better Together Empowerment Series and this idea of living powerfully, what do those two words mean to you? Better together and then living powerfully.
To me, it becomes what I call quality of life issues. You know, it's one thing to be alive because you're breathing, your heart is beating, and you know, your brain is in this snappy back and forth. But what is your quality of life? When you wake up, yes, there are going to be some days that are gloomy and challenging, but on days when it seems all is right, how do you live? Is your life such that you're in an environment where you don't have racism, either overt or inverted, that's pressing down on you? You're not in an abusive situation. You have some degree of health with your life. You have mobility. You have options. All of those, to me, are the elements that it's not so many. It's important to have the number of years, quantity, but also the quality of that life. Was that a life where between your birthday and your death day, did life offer you, and did you engage in a life that said, I'm worth and my life reflects that I'm worth something. I'm appreciative for being here. I'm engaged, and the world is engaged with me. That's kind of some of what I begin to hear. And, it's a little esoterical, but I've always told people, you create in your mind and heart the kind of life you want, but then you have to engage in the world to make that a reality.
Wow.
How do you do that?
You and I have so many more conversations we're going to have. This is so fabulous. What final words would you share with people, inviting them to join us? So just start your sentence with join us and extend your invitation.
Hey, whether you've been walking on the planet for 62, or whether you just started, come on out. This is going to make a better world for all of us. There are things that at times seem impossible. They become possible when you believe, when you have faith, and when you engage. What seems impossible becomes possible. Because I remember the night that they announced that Obama was president, in my whole life, as a black man in this nation with all its racism, I never could conceive. I think even Russia said the great Satan, which is what they call him. This was Russia, pre-Putin. It said the great Satan has shown that there's hope in the world. Now they probably have taken that back since then, but that's what they said that night. They got caught up in the euphoria of it. So that's something that I never conceived in my lifetime, that I would see the children of slaves living in the house that was built by slaves. I never thought I'd see it. So things are possible through God. All kind of things are possible. Dream the impossible and go for it. Someone said, aim for the stars. You're going to land somewhere in the heavens.
And with that, we drop the mic. We invite you to join us as we are committed to continuing the dream.
Amen.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You're amazing.